Good morning, students. From today, in the series of the osteology, we will first learn the bones of the upper limb. Because in most of the institutions of India, the dissection for the freshly admitted student begins with the upper limb. So, from today, we will learn the osteology of the upper limb, and the first video is on the clavicle. This is a clavicle bone. Okay, so I'm holding in my hand is a clavicle bone. Okay, clavicle is a bone of the upper limb, right, which forms the pectoral or shoulder girdle along with another bone called as the scapula. Okay, now this bone articulates on one end with that of the manubrum sterni towards the median plane, and on other end it articulates with that of the acromion process of the scapula. Now, just to locate the position of this bone in the body, I will just show you the two diagrams so that you can visualize where this bone is located. Now, let us see from the atlas of the Theme, where you can see here, if you are able to see this is the clavicle bone, and this clavicle bone, on one hand it is attached to the manubrum sterni, and on to the other hand it is attached to the acromion process of scapula, which is not completely seen in this diagram as it is hidden behind. So this is how this clavicle is placed in the body, and if you see the classification of clavicle, it is classified as a long bone which has two ends, okay, and a body in between the two ends. But the only difference of this bone with the other long bones of the body is that most of the long bones, or almost all the long bones except clavicle, all are placed vertically in the limbs. Okay, this is the only bone which is placed horizontally. That fact should be clear in your mind, that clavicle is a horizontal bone. Okay, now if we come to see this bone, okay, again what you will see that this bone has two ends, okay, and for the determination of the side, because first I am going to tell you about the side determination of the bone, okay, because it belongs to the right side or to the left side. Okay, so you should know to which side my clavicle which I am holding is belonging. Okay, now it has two ends like any other long bones. Okay, and here, since it is horizontally placed, one of the end will be called as medial and another will be called as the lateral end. Now try to feel the ends of this bone. Okay, the end which is large, okay, thick, okay, and it is rounded, okay, that end is the medial end. So this, see here, okay, I am just trying to palpate this, okay, touch this end of, and it is large and rounded. And if you touch the other end, okay, with your fingers, then you will notice that the other end is the flat end. Okay, it is. So the flat end is always the lateral end, and this round large end is called as the medial end. So now you can differentiate which is the medial end and which is the lateral end holding this bone in horizontal position. Okay, now it has, between the two ends the body is present. Okay, between these two ends, medial and lateral end body, and body is not any straight like any other long bone of the body. Here it shows the curvatures, and it is an S-shaped curve. So there are double curve, and this curvature can be roughly be divided into two. In the medial 2/3, this curvature is here the long curve, and in the lateral 1/3 there is another curvature is here. Okay, so there are two curvature at the junction of the medial 2/3 and the lateral 1/3. Now try to feel this medial 2/3 part, okay, which has a curvature, long curvature here, you will feel that this medial two-third part, which is towards the medial end, is cylindrical. That means it is almost round, okay? It is cylindrical, right? And if you will try to feel the lateral one-third part, which is flattened end here, you will see that it is flattened. It is not cylindrical, okay? It is not cylindrical, right? So now you can know that is which is the medial end, which is the cylindrical medial two-third, and which is the lateral one-third part, okay? Now this lateral one-third part, which is the flattened part, okay, it will be having a smooth surface. On one of its surface is smooth, while try to feel the other opposite surface, which will be quite rough, okay? Now from where you have seen that the surface is rough, trace the same surface towards the medial two-third part also. There also you will get the roughening, but not as much as roughening as it is in the lateral one-third part. That means now this surface which shows the roughening, okay, and try to feel it onto the opposite surface also, where the roughening is not there, okay, it is smooth. So now you can determine two surfaces. One which is smooth is the superior, and one which shows the roughening, okay, that's lot of the ridges, okay, or the tubercle groove will be seen here, and that is the inferior. So you should now identify which is superior surface and which is the inferior surface, okay? Now if you will see this medial two-third, keeping it into superior surface upward and inferior surface downward, then you will see that the medial two-third is convex forward. Medial two-third is convex forward, so as that the lateral one-third is concave forward. So how many things you have come to know? You have identified which is medial end and which is lateral end, right? You could identify which is the superior smooth surface and inferior rough surface, right? Then you can also identify that the medial two-third part has the convexity forward, that is facing towards the anterior side, okay? So now you are in position to determine the side of the bone, okay? If you will keep the bone in such a way that the medial end, which is circular or rounded, okay, and it is almost quadrilateral, not exactly rounded and large, should be kept towards the median plane, towards the midline of the body, and then the flattened end should be placed laterally in such a way that the superior surface is smooth, it should be facing upward, and inferior surface, which is rough here, it should face directly downwards, okay? And in this position you will see that the convexity of the anterior medial two-thirds should face anteriorly. This will determine the side. If I have kept it in this position, then the lateral end will say that this is the bone of the left side. So in my hand I am holding a bone of the left side, so it is the left clavicle. Try to practice, if you are having the bones, just holding it many times, okay, in your hand, okay, and determine the side of the bone, okay. Now the second step is to determine the anatomical position of this bone, how it is placed in our body, okay, when you are standing in by this time you know very well what is the anatomical position. So hold the bone in such a way that the medial end is towards the median plane, and in comparison to lateral end it is placed anteriorly. So just shift the lateral end more towards the anterior side as compared to the lateral, as I am holding here, okay. Another point which you should keep in mind, that the medial end should go down, okay, and lateral end should go up, which you cannot see in this plane, okay, because this is the view from superior aspect, but this is the anatomical position. If you will see it from anterior aspect, you can very well judge the position of the clavicle. But this is the distance, okay, from median plane, okay, anterior, I mean say medial end should be anterior and lateral end should be posterior. Just to visualize the actual anatomical position, I will again show you a diagram from the atlas, the Theme atlas, and from where the view is again seen from the superior aspect similarly, but here you will be able to realize that how the bone is placed into the anatomical position. Just see this diagram first. Okay, see this is the medial end of the clavicle and this is the lateral end. This is the median plane of the body passing and the view is from superior aspect. So you can realize that this medial end is more forward as compared to the lateral end, which is backward. That is one position which you can visualize from this diagram, but then in this you can also visualize another aspect of the anatomical position. Let us see here. The medial end towards the median plane, lateral end towards the lateral side, okay, and then you can see the just that it is at a higher level and it is at a lower level, okay. So the medial end is a lower level and the lateral end is at a higher level. This is somewhat wrong. Lateral end should be a little more upward, okay, little in the true anatomical position. So students, this complete the first aspect of the clavicle, that is the determination of side and the keeping it in anatomical position. Thank you very much.